I'm Ryan Stowers, Executive Director of the Charles Koch Foundation, and I'm here with Byron Auguste, who is founder and CEO of Opportunity at Work. And Byron, we're here today to talk about the work and learning system and recognize that although it's helping some people, it's failing millions of people in this country. So Byron, what is the problem that Opportunity at Work is trying to solve?
Opportunity at Work brings data analytics, it brings narrative, and it brings collaboration platforms that allow employers and nonprofits and governments to essentially work together to open up pathways for stars. The stars are people who are working, they're attached to the labor market, they have all sorts of skills because we gain our skills mainly from work, but they don't have college degrees. They've gained their skills perhaps in military service, on the job and what they learn on the job. They may have community college degrees, they may have all sorts of certificates, but the reason it's so important that they don't have bachelor's degrees is that over the last 20 years or more, employers have drifted into this system where they exclude people without bachelor's degrees kind of routinely, almost on autopilot, without even if they have the skills to do the job. They don't even get to the point where they show the skills. So what that brings us to is the 70 million Americans who have skills but not college degrees are really constrained, both from doing higher wage work that they could do, and employers are constrained in tapping into that talent.
So there's 70 million stars out there right now?
Absolutely.
Give me some context. How does that fit within the current labor market?
So to give a sense, there's about 40% of today's workforce in the United States has a bachelor's degree.
Right.
So stars are more than half of the workforce altogether. And that is so much of who employers need to tap into in order to fill these skills gaps or labor shortages or whatever they're seeing. So we know stars are there, we know they're skilled, and right now, stars in every community, in every industry are working to figure out what they can learn, how they can work, how they can get ahead.
So there's another dynamic that's going on that's a part of this. And it's good to push for skills. Skills bring us closer to who the individual is. It's important to push for better paying jobs, but people need purpose, not just a paycheck. And we're seeing this kind of come out in some of the data where people are looking for more than just a better job. How do we use this movement, this opportunity that's at play right now, to push further and reach that point where we're empowering people as individuals to reach their potential and find purpose in their lives?
Yeah, I really agree with the premise of your question, in the sense that what we bring to a job is not just skills, it's motivation, it's curiosity, it's work ethic, it's many things that that stars tend to bring, to a huge degree. And by the way, that's what stars is all about. It's like skilled through alternative routes. It's not alternative people, it's not alternative skills, it's
Right.
alternative routes. And I really admire so much of the resourcefulness I've seen to sort of get there. And those are exactly the characteristics that businesses say they want in people in their companies. But the other way in which I think it's really important to think about this contribution and this purpose is, yes, people absolutely want to raise, but they also want to learn new things. They want to contribute new things. The mindset that has you excluding people is also the mindset that has you disparaging or ignoring the contributions of the people you already have. So they go hand in hand, and we need to be in a place where we're encouraging this kind of this curiosity and this ambition, if you will, but ambition to solve a problem, to make a contribution. Most people want to do a good job, and a system that allows them to A, have a chance to do it, and B, be empowered to do it within the company, and then to see some advancement from it, is a system that works. And if you don't do those things, the system really doesn't work. So it's not just what you pay someone, although that matters. It's not just advancing them, although that certainly matters. But it's also in doing their job, do you have them do it in a way that allows them to contribute? Or do you just sort of slot them into a system where it wouldn't matter who was in that role? It would have to be done exactly the same way.
Let's talk about you for a minute. You're an economist. You've had business experience, government experience. Byron, why are you so passionate about this?
Well, Brian, partly I'm passionate about solving this problem because it's a problem we can solve. I mean, my father was a star. He spent about a year at college, and it just wasn't working for him. He wasn't finding his path. He got a job. This was in Detroit. He was a shipping clerk in a factory, and he saw an ad saying you could learn COBOL. That was the IBM computer language at the time, and he gave it a shot. He actually quit his job. He spent a few months studying this, and then he got a job shadow at Detroit Edison in the MIS department, so the IT department of the day. And they thought, well, yes, he can be a COBOL programmer, and he was, and he had a 30, 40-year career as a programmer. And that moment was when my family started to move into the American middle class. So I've seen it work before. So that was 50 years ago. I've now been around the country. I've seen stars in every setting, rural, urban, the like, and it's a very similar story. I know what I can do, but no one will give me a chance. And that's a shame at a human level, but it's also very damaging at an economic level.
It's a powerful story, and it's powerful because it shows us that there's a better way. And in order for us to be successful, we've got to show people that there's a better way. How do we fix this?
Yeah.
What do we do? Why is this so difficult?
Well, it's a great question. Why is it so difficult? I actually think of the big problems we have in society, this is one of the most solvable problems. So in one level, I don't think it's that difficult. I mean, if you're coming from the standpoint of an employer, there are tangible changes you can make to do better at this. You can tap into the stars in your own company. You can ensure that there's career paths there for folks doing a good job in your call centers to move into sales and so forth. You can do that. You can remove degree screens from your job descriptions and focus on like what the skill sets are. You can extend whatever you use. If you use apprenticeships, like internships, you can extend those to stars too, like to hire. So there are a lot of solutions that employers can adopt individually. So just drop the degree screen, which is really a bit of a crutch in the first place. That's the number one thing. Your systems and your workflow and your software are all set for exclusion.
Right.
We just call it hiring, but it's actually exclusionary hiring.
Weeding out the people.
It's weeding out.
Yeah.
So, but what does inclusion mode look like there? More than half of the growth jobs in this country come with a bachelor's degree is required. But is it required? In many cases, you have jobs that are like a very high percentage of those jobs are actually being done by stars, and yet you're saying it requires a degree. It doesn't. If you can't, as a company, say what skills are needed for the job, what do I need you to be able to do, then you need to think harder about your job description. And once you think hard enough to say what the skills are, and how would you know? How could you demonstrate it? In 9 times out of 10, you're not going to need a bachelor's degree as an additional indicator. It's not actually going to add any value.
So you mentioned employers, and it's clear that they're a part of this. Are universities at fault? Are they a part of this dynamic that's creating this problem?
Well, I don't know if I would say universities are at fault in the sense that universities do what they do, and they play a really important role in society. College could be a great bridge to opportunity. That's true. But having college as a drawbridge that pulls up behind everyone who doesn't get across it, that's a terrible use of college. So tearing the paper ceiling, well, what are we tearing? We're not saying we want to tear up college. We're not saying we want to tear up the degrees that people proudly earned. We're saying that a terrible use of that paper is to make it a ceiling for everybody else.
What do you see right now that makes you optimistic about the future?
Well, the number one source of optimism for all of us is that millions of stars are out there trying to figure this out every day. And that's true whether we have a movement, whether we have anything. So like that's where the energy is coming from, and that's where the solution is mainly coming from. A second thing that makes me optimistic is that we are seeing smart employers, both in the private sector and the public sector, adopting skills first practices, recognizing stars talent. And when they do that, by the way, especially if they call out stars as a talent pool that they want, that you also then see many experienced stars, many of them like in very responsible positions, coming out and saying like, I'm a star too. And it tells people, wait a minute, like actually I can get there through alternative routes. And we've been doing that. There's 4 million stars that got there, right, against all the barriers. And that what if we do this on purpose? If we do this work together and on purpose, we are going to solve this problem.